I was stationed in Germany in the Army, and I received a phone call from a family friend letting me know that, I think the first thing she said was, your sister died. And I was like, oh, wow, what happened? And then she said, well, her body was found. She was murdered. And I can tell you everything stopped.
It was a hot summer night in August of 1988. I received a telephone call at 2:30 a.m. Mr. Malloy, I'm sorry to inform you that your daughter has been murdered in a robbery at McDonald's. And I literally fell on my knees.
My mother was brutally raped, and a stick was shoved down her throat. Her voice box was crushed, so she could not scream while she was being raped and tortured. I was a kid, and so most of my family assumed that we didn't have any thoughts or feelings, but I don't know how people could even think that a child who had their mother every day would, and then one day did not have that mother every day going forward, that wouldn't be noticed or that child wouldn't be affected. And for a very long time, I carried a lot of anger with me.
Almost a year later, he's brought to trial. 12 jurors of his peers found him guilty, and he was sentenced. We were never the Brady Bunch anymore. We never had the fun that we used to. We never did things that we used to, and it tore my wife apart.
I was able to talk to the detectives and, try to get as much information as I could, which was very limited, other than they had arrested the individuals 24 hours after her body was found. I felt relieved. When I met with the detectives and the police department, I felt like it couldn't have been better. And I was satisfied. They got it. The case was over.
Almost 15 years later, they matched his DNA with the mask that the perpetrator wore, and it didn't match. So he appealed, and the verdict was overturned.
They had to release him 3 days before my daughter was born, my miracle baby of a daughter. It sucked the joy right out of my life. I didn't wind up not even going to the hospital because I'm so angry I can't even hold my child without the joy. It took me a long time to bond with my kid. That's terrible to say.
How should we feel? How do you deal with it? There was no help for my family. And the other thing was, yours truly certainly needed help.
When he had gotten exonerated, they didn't even come and let me know. I lived a mile away from the courthouse.
I didn't even know what exoneration was, what that meant. Nobody explained it to me. If he gets out, then what if he's mad? If he's mad and he's mad at my family, he might come and retaliate against all of us.
And for me, then I had to put up my guard because I don't know how he felt, especially when a man has been convicted of a murder that he didn't commit,
If he didn't do it, then who did? And so now I'm confused all over again, because then what happens to my mother's case? What happens now? Do we forget about her because now he's out? What happens to her? It's not fair.
After the exoneration, I truly needed counseling. I did. I was a mess. I had anxiety. There was fear because I, like his family and him, was in the spotlight because I agreed that he was innocent. And I was adamant after the exoneration, we need to find out who murdered my sister. So I was a voice for that too. And then I started having medical issues. And 6 months of testing, of medication, and we don't know what's wrong with you.
You have anxiety like you wouldn't believe, that's on your shoulders day after day after day. My sons didn't know. They learned later. But I was so depressed that I completely shut down.
The first thing that we're going to do is it's a puzzle. You will each kind of randomly pull 7 to 8 pieces of the puzzle and write on your puzzle pieces what you need going forward.
I truly found that the more I shared my story, the more I talked about how I felt and what happened, that I actually started to heal because people were listening and I wasn't alone.
You know, I keep sayings and poems and quotes.
I felt like, wow, these are people that went through a lot just like we did. And they're sharing their experiences with people that they don't even know. What crime victims and survivors need people to know. It felt so good for somebody else to hear what we went through.
Our cases are different, but the exoneration piece was the same. Like, you were comfortable for all these years thinking they got them. And now, all of a sudden, they didn't. And what does that look like, and how did it make you feel?
My advice to other victims or surviving family members from these types of crimes or exonerations would be to seek out a support system outside of your family.
What do you need going forward to continue your healing?
There are other people who've had this experience, unfortunately, but knowing that there are other people and being able to reach them can be helpful.
It's been an amazing experience. We're not alone anymore, and it feels good just so we can breathe, you know?